utterly condemn the far-right thuggery we've seen this weekend. Be in no doubt.
And I utterly condemn the violence we saw last night in Preston and other parts of northwest England. 135 injured, 45 hotels burned, more than 115,000 protesters on the streets of the northwest. For 5 nights, the Union Jack was ablaze in flames instead of light. 2042, 5th of November 2025, Manchester city centre. Police sirens blared in the rain, shop fronts were broken, bottles were flying in circles. What started as a march for answers became Britain's biggest civil unrest in more than a decade. The target was migrant hotels, symbols in the public mind of a government that builds compassion from contracts. Footage shows scores of riot shields outside the Midland Manchester Hotel. What was once a shelter for thousands of asylum seekers is now awash in orange heat. Local firefighters report that 22 separate arsons in 24 hours. Liverpool, Bolton, Preston, every name is now a headline. You promised security. A man shouts into the camera, his voice cutting through the smoke. You gave us silence. If you've ever wondered how far silence can burn, stay, because the answer comes next. Across the UK, more than 250,000 people have taken to the streets. Manchester, London, Liverpool, Bolton, even Sheffield in South Yorkshire, all chanted slogans, "Where is Westminster?" The government has yet to respond. Inside the House of Commons, the lights came on late, but words were slow to come. The Home Secretary called the violence a contained unrest. The opposition called it a collapse. Prime Minister Keir Starmer is due to address the nation at dawn. But for the millions of Britons watching tonight, dawn feels like an excuse, not a solution. On Sky News, the presenter read out the casualty figures like a ticking clock. 135 injured, 31 police officers hospitalised, 45 hotels damaged, property damage totalling £98 million. Economists warned that if the riots spread to the mainland ports, the supply routes to Felixstowe and Southampton could be blocked within 48 hours. At 9 p.m, an encrypted memo leaked from the Home Office. Northern Command was overwhelmed. Reserve units had been requested. Political approval was pending. That approval never came. At the edge of the crowd, a young nurse named Sophie Mallister held up her phone, live streaming the chaos. "This is my street," she said quietly. "My living expenses have gone up 38% this year, and they told me there's no more funding. But there is funding for this." Her video reached 3.2 million views in 6 hours. If you're watching this video, you've seen that footage too. What you're seeing isn't just protest, it's exhaustion. What you're seeing isn't just protest, it's exhaustion. 10:27 p.m, the first wave hits the storm on Parliament grounds. Barricades collapse, police deploy tear gas for the first time since 2013. Reporters describe the sound as a heartbeat of panic. From London, Downing Street releases a 3-sentence statement. The Prime Minister condemns violence. Public safety remains our priority. Dialogue must continue, but dialogue ended when the first hotel fell. Behind closed doors, the intelligence briefings are grim. MI5's regional desk lists 52 online channels, coordinating real-time crowd movements, encrypted, shifting by the minute. Police drones jammed twice. Cellular towers burned in Rochdale. An internal line from the Cabinet Office reads, containment impossible, okay. Public mood volatile. At 11 p.m, energy traders flag anomalies. Oil depots in Liverpool and Hull report blockade attempts. By midnight, fuel distribution across the northwest drops 19%. Hospitals switch to backup generators. And still, Westminster sleeps. Across social media, one phrase trends above all. #Britain on fire. Within 12 hours, it hit 64 million impressions, eclipsing even the 2024 general election. Clips of riot officers kneeling in front of crowds go viral with captions like, "We serve the people, not the politicians." By dawn, the question is no longer who started the fire, but who benefits from the smoke. In the morning briefing, a senior advisor warns, if we call it terrorism, we criminalise half the country. If we don't, we lose control of the rest. The Prime Minister says nothing. Cabinet sources say he looks pale, eyes fixed on the screen showing Manchester in flames. Meanwhile, analysts report an 8% drop in consumer confidence, £1.2 billion wiped from retail markets, and a 50% surge in flight bookings from Manchester to Edinburgh. When citizens start fleeing their own country for a weekend of peace, you know the numbers are more than statistics, they're a diagnosis. In Preston, a crowd of thousands forms around the ruins of the Queen's Court Hotel. The building had hosted 125 migrants funded by the Home Office at a rate of £195 per head per night. That contract was worth £9.5 million a year. Now it's ash. An elderly veteran named Tom Reed walks past the debris with a flag over his shoulders. "I fought for this country," he tells reporters, "but I don't recognise it anymore." The clip runs on every network by evening. Commentators call it the moment Britain saw its reflection. Viewers across the UK scroll through their feeds silent. Maybe you are one of them right now. Maybe you are one of them right now if you're watching Hit Like So. This story reaches beyond the algorithm because truth travels only when you push it forward. 11:55 a.m, November 6th, Westminster. The Prime Minister steps to the podium. He reads from a sheet of paper titled National Stability Address. "My government condemns the violence in the Northwest and reaffirms our commitment to unity." No mention of migrant contracts, no mention of missailing I-5 warnings, just the rhythm of political tranquilizers. Reporters shout questions. "Will you suspend the asylum hotel programme? Will you visit Manchester?" He turns away. The broadcast ends in silence, but outside the noise is still growing. By nightfall, the numbers become unreal. 160 injured, 60 arrested, £110 million in damage. Emergency rooms overflow. Police morale drops 29%. Public trust in government plummets to 22%, a record low. Foreign press labels it the star collapse. In Brussels, one diplomat says, off record, "Britain used to export stability, now it exports chaos." As midnight returns to Manchester, rain starts to fall over charred streets. Civilians sweep the pavement, collecting glass and ash into buckets. Someone hangs a sign over a burned out door. "Home once, hope again." Home once, hope again. The camera pulls back. No music, just the hum of a city trying to breathe. From Preston to Manchester, from Bolton to Liverpool, every image tells the same story. A government out of touch, a nation out of patience, and a people who refuse to stay silent. As midnight returns to Manchester, rain starts to fall over charred streets. Civilians sweep the pavement, collecting glass and ash into buckets. The mood is heavy, a silent refusal to surrender to despair. So, Britain, what happens next? Is this a riot or a reckoning? The question hangs in the damp, smoky air, a challenge to the established order. Tell us in the comments below. Your voice is the only thing still uncensored. And for those who still believe truth matters, subscribe and turn on the bell because silence wins, only when you stop listening. Yet beneath the smoke and sirens, there is something else. Something Britain has always carried, even in its darkest hours. In the back streets of Manchester, strangers who stood on opposite sides hours earlier are now passing blankets through broken windows. A young migrant woman, still trembling from the fire, helps an old man lift his fallen signboard back into place. No cameras, no slogans, no orders, just people doing what governments forgot how to do. Care. At a small church near St Peter's Square, volunteers light candles for the injured, Catholic, Protestant, immigrant and local. Each flame small, stubborn, equal. The city, for all its pain, still remembers how to hold itself together when no one else will. A teacher named Aylin writes on the wall of a burned hotel, "Forgiveness builds what fury burns." Within hours, her message spreads across social feeds, shared more than any riot clip. Because deep down, even in the roar of collapse, people recognise what really matters. Not who we blame, but what we become after. Britain is a nation born from reconstruction, rubble to roof, war to welfare, silence to song. Maybe tonight's fire is not the end of something, but the beginning of a question we've ignored for too long. How much anger does it take to remember empathy? The flames will die out, the buildings will rise again, but the lesson written in Coy Manchester, say Conley, that strength isn't control, it's compassion that survives the chaos. This is UK Alert News. If you stand for truth, Stay with us because Britain has just opened its